The midterm elections in 2022 have officially concluded, with the new Speaker of the House being chosen on January 7th after 15 rounds of voting. This means that the agenda is being set for legislation, and issues are being organized from highest priority to lowest priority. But what exactly should Congress focus on?
The U.S., long known for its enforcement of law and order, incarcerates more people per capita than any other nation, with more than 2 million people behind bars.
I got turned down by 3 different places to do community service because of my felony conviction.
The number one thing I think we need to do in terms of juvenile justice in this country is to absolutely forbid juvenile solitary, because no young person...
Because we're so busy locking up everybody.
The people who came out of solitary that I saw, I mean, they were broken people, right? It had broken them.
There are approximately 2 million people currently incarcerated in American prisons. This is a 500% increase over the last 40 years, according to information provided by the Sentencing Project. The United States only houses 5% of the world's total population, but houses over 20% of the world's prison population. Mass incarceration has been an issue for years in the United States, but recidivism rates, or the rate of convicts that return to prison after being incarcerated, are even higher. Reports by the Bureau of Justice Statistics show that almost 44% of convicts return to prison. By state, the highest recidivism rates can go up to 66.41%. The current laws restricting convicts from re-entering a normal society are outdated and ineffective, and don't serve as a deterrent for crime. In fact, they encourage convicts to return to lawbreaking after their release.
Part of the problem is if you've already been incarcerated, if your life and the lives of those around you have already been impacted by a disparity in sentencing. And I think that in the United States in general, we have a prison system that is built off of the concept of really retribution as opposed to rehabilitation. But the fact of the matter is we're still impacted by the effect of mass incarceration. It's devastated communities, and when you devastate communities, you devastate society overall.
The federal prison system is in complete disarray right now.
So maybe we could accept some of these failures if our justice system worked in other ways. And by worked, I mean kept people on the outside safe and changed people on the inside for the better. But our justice system utterly fails everyone it touches.
Mass incarceration isn't the only issue in the prison system. In 2022, the Senate conducted an oversight investigation on the Federal Bureau of Prisons and identified that female prisoners had been sexually assaulted by male prison employees in over 2/3 of all prisons in the United States, and that female prisoners are significantly more likely to be sexually harassed and abused while incarcerated.
Under the Bureau's previous leadership, we witnessed an inadequate response to the COVID-19 pandemic, rampant misconduct by BOP officials, chronic staffing shortages, the overuse of solitary confinement and lockdowns, the inadequate implementation of congressional authorities to reduce prison populations and reduce recidivism.
So, I mean, there are some indications that there's good things coming out of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Now, on the other hand, they've had a lot of management problems, they've had a lot of turnover, they've lost a lot of staff, they've had to close down facilities because they don't have sufficient staff, and there have been disruptions and riots in federal facilities, which suggests that despite some of the good that I talked about, they've got a core management problem.
One common grievance people have against prison reform is that criminals deserve to be put away, and prison reform would only loosen the restraints. The source of these counterarguments is identified in Shad Maruna's book, Making Good. In the book, Maruna identifies that most people have trouble accepting that ex-convicts can reform and rebuild their lives. The reason for this is that humans tend to extend the possibility of change only to themselves and nobody else.
I think it's worth thinking about authorizing legislation as providing a framework. So what Congress can do is create grant programs that allow people to voluntarily apply for grants to try to implement and improve programs.
Legislation can go back and fix the law. It can change the law. It can even reduce the sentence if you are currently serving a sentence. But it cannot undo the lost lives in life that individuals in a community have experienced and an individual has experienced.
So rather than pass new laws, which is often the emphasis that we hear from the public and from government, we need to enforce existing laws, and we need better oversight. We need more accurate oversight.
But we can never forget that incarceration and the circumstances that surround incarceration, the impact on families and communities in addition to the individual,